Today on the newscast, will Israel share its Iron Dome missile defense system with its Arab allies? Plus, Israel joins the United States for a massive naval drill in the Red Sea. Get all the breaking details next. Hey folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast. We've been telling you here over the past few weeks how the United Arab Emirates is increasingly under assault by those Iran-backed, Yemen-based Houthi rebels. Now, we saw the latest attack this past weekend on Sunday, January 30th, when, as Israeli President Isaac Herzog was visiting the UAE, a ballistic missile was launched by the Houthis at the UAE capital of Abu Dhabi. Now, thankfully, that missile was shot down reportedly by a U.S. Patriot missile defense battery, but we had another attempt last week, a few missiles launched again at Abu Dhabi. Those missiles also intercepted. The first one was about 2 weeks ago when, yes, a combination of ballistic missiles and attack drones, some of them did break through, targeted oil processing facilities in Abu Dhabi, and 3 people were killed in that initial barrage by the Houthi rebels, again, backed by the Iranian regime. So, folks, we have a real developing problem here where, hey, look, we've seen Saudi Arabia, and we have documented this for you on the newscast over the past year at least, how Saudi Arabia is a major front right now being bombarded on a regular basis by those Houthis out of Yemen with both ballistic missiles and explosive-packed attack drones. It now seems that the Houthis are shifting their focus to the UAE as well. I don't think that's a coincidence, considering the very close and increasingly warm relationship that the UAE has with Israel. Both of them, of course, a party to that Abraham Accords peace treaty. So the UAE is having a serious problem right now with these incoming missiles and drones. We may have a solution, though. Israel, according to the Channel 13 TV network in Israel, is reportedly considering selling its Iron Dome missile defense system to the United Arab Emirates. Now, Iron Dome, as you've seen here on the newscast, is groundbreaking Israeli technology with an incredible success rate. Look no further, for instance, than the war between Israel and Hamas back in May 2021. Some 90% of the incoming Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad rockets launched out of Gaza were intercepted by Iron Dome. It has really been a marvel of Israeli technology, again, with just a phenomenal success rate in helping to keep the people of Israel safe in the face of these constant rocket barrages. Now, Israel reportedly thinking of sharing this technology with the UAE, and what it would do would basically extend Israel's missile defense barrier beyond the borders of Israel, folks, when you think about it. We've talked oftentimes here on the newscast about that ring of fire that surrounds Israel right now on all sides. Iran and its proxies armed to the teeth with ballistic missiles and attack drones, whether it's Hamas and Islamic Jihad out of Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen to the south, those Shia militias in Iraq and Syria to the east, or, of course, Hezbollah to the north in Lebanon. They are heavily armed with tens of thousands of rockets and missiles and a growingly advanced fleet of attack drones supplied by their masters in Tehran, the Iranian regime. Well, it seems that Israel now is trying to form a ring of defense to guard against that ring of fire, not only along Israel's immediate borders, but perhaps supplying the United Arab Emirates, obviously an Arab Gulf nation in close proximity to Iran, could not only help a friend and ally in the form of the UAE, but also help Israel in terms of, look, if there are incoming rockets coming from Iran, the system in the UAE, the early warning systems that Israel would provide, would detect those incoming rockets, missiles, attack drones, or whatever comes out of Iran. So this is something that Israel is reportedly seriously considering, but according to other Israeli media outlets, they have not made a definitive decision on this just yet. There also have been rumblings that Israel may provide Iron Dome to Saudi Arabia as well. As I mentioned, of course, the Saudis having some serious problems with those Houthi rebels. The same hybrid model being used against the UAE, ballistic missiles, attack drones, supplied, paid for by, you guessed it, the Iranian regime, the head of the snake in Tehran. Now, we're doing a Watchman Newscast live stream here tomorrow, Wednesday, February 2nd, between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and I want to know what you think. Should Israel share Iron Dome with the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, the Arab Gulf states? Remember, they have obviously much in common in terms of a united front against the Axis, Iran and its terror proxies. But what do you think? And there's economic cooperation on a lot of levels. The ties are deepening between Israel and its Arab neighbors. But I want to get your thoughts. We have, of course, a Q&A session on every live stream. So please send along in the comments section what you think. We will discuss this tomorrow. Again, Wednesday, February 2nd, between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the channel for our weekly Watchman Newscast live stream. We love to hear from you and engage with you live. It'll be a lot of fun. So be sure to join us tomorrow, and be sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you get alerts every time a new live stream, a new video is posted. Hey, before we go, another interesting piece of news from the region regarding Israel. Israel is joining a massive naval drill led by the U.S. Fifth Fleet going on right now in the Red Sea. Now, this drill is going to last until February 17th. It's a nearly 3-week, just massive naval drill involving some 60 countries and at least 9,000 people. So the Israeli Navy will be there right alongside the U.S. Fifth Fleet and a number of other countries, including nations. And folks, this is very interesting. Nations that Israel does not have formal diplomatic relations with. I'm going to read you the list here real quick, just right off my phone. I don't want to miss any of these countries. We have Somalia, Yemen, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Djibouti. These are Islamic nations which Israel does not have official relations with, folks, if you look at that list. Yet Israel, the Israeli Navy, will be side to side with these nations in the Red Sea over the next few weeks. Of course, the U.S. leading this drill. And here's what the Israel Defense Forces say. The missile ship flotilla and the underwater missions unit will train with the American Fifth Fleet in the area of the Red Sea as part of this exercise, and it will strengthen our regional security and advance our regional cooperation. It will focus on unmanned naval systems and the use of AI, artificial intelligence. So it sounds like there's some cutting-edge material being used in this massive naval drill. Hopefully, we'll have some updates for you on this. Again, it wraps on February 17th. But I think once again, as we talk about the Abraham Accords and Israel coming closer to the Sunni Arab nations in opposition to that Iranian axis, some of those nations, hey, Pakistan, for instance, Saudi Arabia, Oman, there's been a lot of talk over the past year about Oman, about Saudi Arabia, perhaps joining the Abraham Accords, officially making peace with Israel and recognizing the Jewish state. We've heard some rumblings about Pakistan. That has seemed a bit unlikely, but we've also heard about Indonesia, which is the world's most populous Muslim nation in Southeast Asia, also perhaps coming to the table with Israel. These are rumblings, nothing obviously etched in stone, but conversations definitely have been ongoing on that front. So we live in very interesting times. As a wise man once said, these are Bible times. And folks, we have a front row seat for all of it. Perilous times, no doubt. But we know that God Almighty still sits on the throne. We know that Jesus is the answer. So I have the peace that surpasses all understanding. As all of this chaos is around us, I can rest easy at night knowing that God is in control. Hey, we thank you so much for joining us here on the Watchman Newscast. Until our live stream tomorrow, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, bring your questions. God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to see more, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, click subscribe, and tap the bell icon to turn on notifications for new Watchman Newscast episodes every weekday.